And so we are back, part two. This time, as successful managers at Transform, we want to track and monitor any management activity that we're doing. And so basically, the concept is this: first, we plan our management endeavor, and then we collect results. In doing so, we are looking at our planned data versus the actual results, the actual data that comes in. In doing so, we are trying to identify if there's a gap, and if there's a gap, what do we need to do to change? This is all about variance, or sometimes called gap analysis, right? And so these are things that successful managers have to do. This is cost management. It's a different conversation. There's a little too much detail here, but so don't really focus on this. Focus on, you make a plan and you collect the results. You look at your plan data versus the data results that you collected. And if there's a gap, should you make a change? This is variance analysis. This is what successful managers that transform the activities that they operate within. Now, if there is a gap and you have to make a change, we call that corrective actions, right? You have to make these decisions, but realize as a successful manager that once you identify this variance and you're going to take this corrective action, that there are trade-offs that you want to consider. Remember, nothing is free. If I cut the budget, how is it going to impact the management schedule or the management scope, right? The requirements that I'm trying to deliver. Those are just some examples. You have to assess, what trade-offs am I going to have to make? Is there going to be an impact to risk? Will there be an impact on communications or stakeholders that are approving or judging or monitoring our management effort along the way? Also, as a good manager, you need to know when to escalate, right? Often in these management environments, good news rises and bad news fast, right? But so does bad news, right? At our working level. And sometimes we don't escalate in time to have a really positive impact, right? So my point here would be, and as a manager that transforms, we have to know when to escalate. An effective escalation procedure is going to require that we understand the issues and problems, that we've worked them first. Never escalate until you've worked an issue, because your boss is going to ask you, did you try this? Did you do that? You want to be able to say yes, 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 and to no avail, right? So you want to make sure you've worked the issue at the lowest level possible. In fact, you as a manager should also be driving your workers and asking them the same questions. Now, if an issue cannot be resolved and closed, then you'll elevate it to the next level to help get it closed, right? And so you want to have kind of a formal process or a mindset in place to understand the escalation process. One of the keys is make sure you escalate in time to address the problem before you're behind schedule, behind budget, incurring additional risks, right? There's a balance here. You don't want to escalate too early. You want to make sure you've done everything you can to try and fix it, but you don't want to escalate too late either, that you as a manager are falling behind in schedule, budget, risks, communications, etc. Okay? So it's a balance. And also, my last note on this would be, don't escalate everything. There's a story I grew up with called The Boy Who Cried Wolf, right? That wolf, 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 and the town would respond, and there was no wolf. Finally, the day came when the boy did cry wolf, and there really was a wolf, and nobody came. because he'd cried wolf too often. Okay, so there's a balance. There's a lesson there for escalation as well. Getting to some of the final points for success is, as a manager, you want to make sure you have a system for when work should start. I call it the WAS, the work authorization system, right? We all know things tend to fall behind, and there are supply chain issues, budget issues, personnel issues. The list goes on and on as a manager. So it's not beneficial for work just to begin because you said 2 months ago it would start on this day, right? You want to make sure that the work begins when you say it begins, even though it was planned. And because you are the one constantly, you've built the plan and you're looking at the results. You're looking at the plan data from that plan and looking at the resultant data, the actual data from the results. And only you understand if there's a gap, if you need a change, and should the work begin now. So work authorization and change control are two of the tools you have as a successful manager, including, and I would add performance feedback to that as well. Okay, management success, right? What is management success? It can be any or all of these things. It can be on scope, on schedule, on cost, with I would add a high performing team. I would add meeting customer requirements. I would add meeting or satisfying or exceeding company strategic business needs, right? You want to define what success is and make sure your boss agrees. That is a measure of a successful manager that transforms. You want to make sure, back to that word alignment, that you are aligned with your boss in your management role and that your boss is aligned with the corporate level above them. Okay, that was fun, right? Now we turn to another topic that is just as important to managers that transform, and that is supporting team performance. Okay, so when we support team performance, managers can take steps to develop and maintain high levels of engagement. Engagement is so important. No person is ever transformed as we're working to create this high performing team. No person is ever transformed without engagement, right? And so managers take steps to maintain high levels of engagement by engaging, I hate to use the same word twice, in 5 key behaviors that are going to inspire and motivate and empower team members to take pride in their work. You see how all these topics are coming together. So first of all, be a role model. Engaged managers inspire followers to be engaged. Engaged leaders, engaged managers inspire followers to be engaged. Provide social and structural resources for the team, right? Ensure the team has all the resources they need to complete the work. It's one of your major roles to knock down barriers or walls for your team. Don't always jump in to solve the team's efforts. Ask the team if they've solved it, right? Let them work for themselves at the lowest level. Guide them, coach them, steer them, monitor them, be part of it, but at the same time, provide the resources that they need. Now, we also want to provide, as managers, challenging assignments for our team. We talked about that a little bit back in motivational theory. To be honest, people who enjoy working on challenging assignments are much more likely to be engaged. We want them to be motivated in this way. So as a team manager or a team leader, it's important to satisfy the need for challenging work by offering opportunities for a challenging role or skill development or capability strengthening, which means you've got to know your team members and what motivates them, what they want, what are their needs as you're building this high performing team. You also want to allow team members to share in the process of designing the work and to achieve team goals. Back in back in motivational theory, this was more like theory Y, right? Where I trust the team members. And agile management uses this sort of approach a lot. They call it a self-organizing team. I'm not saying you have to go that far, but you want the team to share. There's buy-in when they design the work, and there's innovation and creativity, and you get higher motivation along the way. And then, of course, your major role as a manager is to remove obstacles. We called them blockers earlier, right? Remove blockers that hinder the team's success. These can be unclear requirements from various stakeholders. Maybe you're working in a matrix organization. They have two bosses, you and someone else. So help clarify the requirements or the priorities. Ensure the support of the entire organization that your team is working within. You have to ensure that the resources are there to meet the team goals. You want to minimize the effects of obstacles by managing them and by clarifying expectations to your team. You want to represent and defend your team to the organization so that the team can do their job effectively. Okay. And then the last topic this week is negotiating to project success. I love this topic of negotiation. There is a book that I always recommend, and that book is called, you can get it on Amazon. It's called Getting to Yes. It is famous. They've sold millions of them. If your whole life is a negotiation with your wife, with your husband, with your boss, with your partner, with the car dealer, everything is a negotiation. So Getting to Yes, I highly recommend. But I will close this week with this video that talks